When I left, I also felt like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Like, I'm starting over again. Every time you bend your boundaries or, you know, your morals, whatever, for someone or something else, you slowly chip away at that integrity. But the thing is, your integrity is what helps build your confidence. Let me be delusional then. I have decided I'd rather be delusional. I'd rather be delusional. I want to clear the air before I speak. Okay. Hi. Long time no see. Sorry, my stuffed animals are falling all around me. Um, yeah, I don't even really know where to begin. Um, if you've been following my channel for a while now, you've noticed that I typically post consistently, and now I haven't posted in over a month. And basically, I've had a lot of things happen over the past few weeks or in this past month, and really I just needed a break. That's number one. Besides needing a break, I also quit my tattoo apprenticeship. Now, before that's like any shocking news to anyone, I am still continuing to practice tattoo. I'm still learning how to tattoo. I don't have an apprenticeship anymore, but I do have a mentor who's giving me feedback and answering my questions and letting me know the proper rules, procedures, etc. I was at my apprenticeship for 6 months, so I do still know like the basic things of like setting up and what needles to use and things like that. I didn't leave my apprenticeship because I knew these things. I was really looking forward to starting tattooing in May. That was the plan. While I can't speak much on it because of legal reasons, and the contract that I signed, that relationship sadly dissolved, and I'm just having to move forward with my life. I had to take some time to process that, grieve that, and figure out what it is that I wanted. Obviously, I still felt like tattoo was really exciting for me. I still enjoy making art, still enjoy the practice of tattooing. For now, I've just been using fake skin as opposed to those two tattoos I did. And while I was really nervous, they actually went pretty well and have been healing really well. I've been getting updates daily, so I'm really happy about that. Um, yeah, I can't say anything's going wrong with tattooing. It just didn't go the way that I expected. I thought I would have an apprenticeship and that would naturally evolve into me tattooing at that studio and then opening myself up to appointments and so on. While I did feel upset initially and, questioning like, what am I doing and what's happening in my life and why do I plan things and then they don't go according to plan, and I guess I had to have a pity party. I had to feel sorry for myself, to be quite honest. I realized in the process of that, though, like as I've been starting to feel a bit better and happier, and despite other things outside of tattooing that have been going on in my life, I realized that happiness really is a choice. And I know that a lot of people say that, especially within the spiritual or motivational community. But I really saw how easy it was for me to slide back into sadness and unhappiness, and I actually took effort to pull myself out of it. A lot of my friends and family would say things like, oh, well, like, you can teach yourself, or you can keep tattooing, or you can do this, or you can do that. And like I flat out said to one of my friends, I was like, yeah, I really don't feel like being optimistic right now. And I hope that that didn't hurt her feelings, because that wasn't my goal. I was just trying to like honestly communicate that I really didn't feel like being optimistic. I didn't want to look at the brighter side of things. And then I had to like pause and ask myself like, why don't I want to look at the brighter side of things right now? Like, I'm still tattooing. It was like, shouldn't I be happy? I'm tattooing even sooner than I thought I was going to be. Um, I have the tools, I have the skills, I have the know-how, I have very nice mentor. And I'm really grateful for everything that they've told me, everything that they've been helping me with. We talk on the phone a lot of the time. They also said I could FaceTime them. whenever, if I want to, watch them tattoo, things like that. So honestly, like, it's an ideal scenario, and they're out of state, so I do plan on going to visit them eventually, and learning some more in-person tattoo skills. But as for now, I'm kind of just doing it on my own, and they actually do believe in me. They actually do support me. They actually do believe that I can do it myself. Um, and they themselves are also a self-taught artist, but they've owned multiple studios and they're very successful. And so I'm like, no, I see that I can be successful as a self-taught artist. I think it's just a bit of rewiring and unlearning, because there's so much prejudice, I feel, or I can't even say if that's the word, but there's a lot of opinions against self-taught artists. And when I was talking to my new mentor, the conversation we were having, they were like, do you have anything against self-taught artists? And I thought about it, and I was like, no, actually, majority of my tattoos, only one of my tattoos is by someone who's not self-taught. And that's just me assuming. I'm actually not certain. I never asked. But they, worked in a traditional tattoo studio. Everyone else that I've gotten tattoos from, I knowingly asked them and found out that they were self-taught artists, and some of them hadn't even been tattooing for very long, but I love all of those tattoos and I'm grateful to have all of them. And so I was like, where is this coming from? And I realized it was all of this noise of the outside world, especially in the tattoo community, that I felt like it was a negative thing to be self-taught. And I'm sure that there are still plenty of people who continue to believe that. And I think I got brainwashed a bit into believing that I needed an apprenticeship. But as you can look at various videos and hear various story times about tattoo apprenticeships, they're not all pleasant experiences. And again, I have to be careful about what I say, but the point is that I started to justify things about apprenticeships, because I believed that was the only way to become a successful tattoo artist. And I realized that I don't have to justify anything. I'm grown, I'm an adult, I don't have to be anywhere that I don't want to be. I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do. I don't have to work for anyone I don't want to work for. And I realized I was the only person who could free myself and allow myself to, figure out what my journey looked like for me independently, instead of trying to do what I thought I needed to do to be successful. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say on that. Outside of tattooing, it's definitely been a much more different journey than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like, oh, I have my apprenticeship, then I start tattooing, then I'm a tattoo artist, etc., etc. And I realized, like, I've been learning a lot more about, well, I've always gotten meaningful tattoos. Let me start there. Not that I believe everyone has to have meaningful tattoos, but upon interacting with like clients and other tattoo artists, and hearing why they made certain custom pieces and such, I realized really how personal tattooing is. And I realized, like, beyond like the fact that I'm like seeing this person possibly undressed or exposing parts of their body, they're telling me things about their life, hence why I'm like making these custom artworks for these people. Like, I realized that it was also taking a lot energetically, that I hadn't really expected. And I realized that I had to like take a pause. So I took a pause from drawing. I took a pause from creating any new content. While I was still continuing to practice tattooing, I wasn't making new pieces for my portfolio after I had just drawn hundreds of pieces for my portfolio. And so it was nice to take a break, but I felt like this worry that, like, what if I never go back? Or what if I have artist block and I don't know what to draw? Or what if? Honestly, I drive myself crazy. And so I realized that I needed to really sit with myself and work on what it is that I wanted from this tattooing experience. I knew that I did kind of want to interweave my spiritual connection into tattooing. And so for me, initially, I thought, oh, I'll just make tribal tattoos. Like, I'll just have spiritual tattoos. But I realized any tattoo can be spiritual now. Even my Ponyo tattoo that I have, I was really thinking that this was about like my inner child. So that's not a tribal print or anything like that. But I realized, like, I could make tattoos have meaning. Other people, they give meaning to the art that I give them. I hope this is making sense because I feel like a bit like I'm rambling. But, it took me taking that step back to realize like I genuinely do want to tattoo. I genuinely do want to give people the artwork that they deserve. I genuinely do want to add to people's bodies. I want to help them heal. At the end of the day, like, tattoo is a ceremony, and I feel like it can be a healing ceremony or a releasing ceremony. And I'm really glad that I got to learn and experience those things thus far from tattooing to realize, it could be more than just a cool picture. And I'm not saying like that it can't just be that, it absolutely can, but I know that I want to be a bit more intentional with my practice. That being said, that means that it requires a lot of me cleansing my energy, keeping my energy clean, which is the same thing, redundant. And it requires a lot of rest in between. I can't just go, 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 go. And that's what a lot of tattooing is. It's a very fast-paced world. You're constantly putting out flash. You're constantly putting out content. You're constantly drawing or tattooing, practicing. And, that takes a lot out of you. And on top of that, I still do have a job outside of tattooing. So I was trying to ask myself, how do I balance these things? I took like 1 week off from practicing tattooing, and like I felt so much guilt, but I also was passing out each night. I was taking naps, and I'm not a napper, and I was realizing like I was drained. I was exhausted because I was putting so much energy and love and care and intention into my work. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that I require more rest and more time in between. And so I feel like now that I'm coming back to this digital space to share with my community that I've created, that now I can come back stronger energetically. I didn't want to look, low energy in my videos. And I had filmed other content during my apprenticeship, but now that that's ended, I don't plan on like editing or uploading any of that content. So I'm really just starting over. It's really just back to the beginning. And I don't mean in the way that it's like completely starting over, which is how I felt initially. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to start over completely from the beginning, especially if I wanted a new apprenticeship. I was like, I'm going to have to start completely over. They're going to put me all the way back at the beginning. This is setting me back even further from tattooing. And it just felt like this goalpost that's continually out of reach and moving forward and moving forward. And I was getting drained, like constantly trying to run and chase after my goals. And obviously that's not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to chase, you're supposed to attract, etc. And I feel like in that energetic space of like trying to heal myself, relax, turn down my energy, that's how I was able to meet my mentor. That's how I was able to establish this new relationship, and this new tattoo connection. And in the process, I've also had a lot of other apprentices reach out to me while I had spoken on my social media about quitting my apprenticeship. And I found community in that, which was something I was looking for in tattoo. And I'm really grateful for that, for them telling me that, they've had sometimes 2 or 3 apprenticeships before they found the one that was right for them. And I've had some that, after they quit their first apprenticeship, they quit tattooing altogether. I've had some that took a break from tattooing for a while and then came back to it. And so I'm really glad to know that, one, everybody's journey is different, and that I don't have to have like some set, rigid way. I think that one of the major issues in my life is like trying to take all of the feedback from the world, be it books or social media or conversations, people, etc., and like using that information to try to form my opinion. And maybe that's because I previously was a scientist. I previously was in grad school, and that required me reading a lot of papers, a lot of other people's thoughts, and then I was supposed to come up with my own hypothesis and thoughts and opinions, etc. And so I'm used to a very research method before forming my own foundation, if that makes sense. But the thing is, now I don't have to do that. I'm not a scientist anymore. And while I still think it's great to take in information from other sources, I don't think that you should be a closed book and only listen to your own thoughts in your own way. You should be a bit open-minded. But I think I was too open-minded to the point where it was very hard to figure out what my thoughts were, what my opinion is. and what I actually want, as opposed to what I thought I wanted, what I thought I needed, what I thought I had to do. And so it's been taking a bit of rewiring my brain to figure out, like, okay, what does my path look like? My path. And so while I'm not completely starting over from square one, I'm starting over as in I'm going down a new path, and I'm realizing that, I'd rather carve my own path out. As much as I would like to be able to just go down a path that's already carved out and set for me, and that's a conversation I've had with my friends. Not that any job is easy. I know that for a fact, but I always wondered, like, why couldn't I just be like, I want to be a teacher or a nurse or something, and just go to school for that, and then go get that job, and then that's just what I do for the rest of my life. And I was like, that would be simple in my mind. Obviously, those jobs are still extremely difficult. But I was like, why did I choose this untraditional path where I'm kind of having to figure things out myself? And then I tried to take a path on that path that I thought was a bit more worn in, and then still ended up out in the middle of the woods, lost, trying to figure out, okay, that was still not the right path. Now I'm really lost. um, but I think in doing so, like, obviously I'm still learning. Obviously I'm still growing. Obviously I'm still very young. I'm only 26. And taking all of that information into account, I've realized, oh, I get to decide the life I want to live. There's no one else telling me what to do. There are certain things out there in society or whatever that will tell me that this is the way I should live, or really it's could. I could live this way. I could have this life, and things could be this way. But what I realized from going to grad school and, trying to get my PhD straight out of undergrad, I thought, like, okay, I'll just take the fastest track to my career. And, all my mentors at the time were telling me, oh, you don't need a master's degree. Like, you can just go straight to your PhD. But everyone in my PhD program actually had their master's already. I was literally the only one that didn't. And when I talked to them, like, I could tell those people already, one, knew what they were getting into because they had previously gone to grad school. They knew, okay, grad school is hard. Grad school requires a lot of time. It makes you stressed. It makes you anxious. It makes you depressed. And I'm not saying that as if there are no positives to grad school. I'm just being, like, transparent that those are large elements. At least it was for me. And when I was speaking to other grad students in my department, it was for them as well. And I thought to myself, this can't be normal. And I talked to my boss at the time, and I was like, I'm feeling this way. I'm burnt out is basically a good way to summarize it. And she's like, oh, that's normal. And I was like, that can't be normal. And in the midst of feeling so unhappy, I was like, despite loving science, I feel so unhappy in my role. And I realized I needed to take a step back. And in the process of taking a step back, I realized I don't even know if I'm going to return to science. As much as I still love it, as much as I spent years of undergrad and grad school working towards that, and specifically being in STEM, especially, I know the amount of hours and work and dedication I put in to my education, and the finances and time. Like, I don't know if I said the time before, but the time, really. I've spent hours studying. And I'm so grateful for all of that information. But again, when I left, I also felt like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Like, I'm starting over again. And I think that now that I've had to start over again, and probably will again in the future, I'm realizing a large part of life is continuously starting over. And honestly, starting over isn't even a really good word for it. I guess being reborn, pivoting, whatever way you want to use the words to describe it. The point is that I don't think that life is going to stay the same. I don't know, maybe there are people out there who have chosen a path, and that path has remained very steadily along it. And maybe that's just career-wise, because I'd also like to say that that doesn't mean that life isn't still happening outside of your career. But as for me, I've lost friends, I've lost jobs, I've moved across the country, I've moved back. I think I've had so many things change in my life that, like, I felt like bitter and angry initially when this tattoo apprenticeship didn't go the way that I wanted. I was like, oh, here it is again. Now something else didn't work out again. And I was like, does it mean I'm on the wrong path? Does it mean I'm doing the wrong thing? Am I still even meant to tattoo? Like, I start to question everything. And in taking that space away from my platform and trying to figure out my voice and what I wanted, I realized, no, I don't have to completely change my path. I can still stay along this path of tattooing. However, I am going to have to go about it in a different way. And it's very possible that a few months from now or years from now, I'm going to have to change my methods again. And, they say life is rolling with the punches. And I don't really like to roll with the punches. It depends on the things, obviously, but when it comes to things like my career, I start to feel like, woe is me. Like, why can't I choose the right job? Why can't I figure out what's right for me? I just want to be successful. I just want to be stable. I just want to make a certain amount of money, to have disposable income, to live the life that I want. I want to have the freedom to set my own hours and work when I want to, so that way I can take off time when I need to, and take off time when I want to. Even like I'm craving freedom and stability at the same time. And it's been a lot of work trying to balance both of those. But I genuinely do believe it is possible. And, prior to leaving grad school, I spent a lot of time working on my self-worth, telling myself that I deserved that I had to realize that, I deserve it just as much as anybody else out there to have a life of ease and financial success. And trying to unlearn that hard work is the only way to be successful, or the only way to achieve your finances. And I don't mean that things don't still require hard work, but I meant such a strenuous effort, such as burnout. And I don't mean people don't get burnt out from tattooing, or I know that they do, and I'm aware that they do, and I have, which is why I took that break. But I think I'm starting to realize that it's a bit different hard work when you're choosing that work for yourself. When I was working hard in grad school, I was doing this project for the sake of graduating, for the sake of someone else, for the sake of what their research goals were for me. And I just wasn't passionate about it ultimately. And so when I took that gap year, which really ended up a gap 8 months, I was like, I really want to find what I'm passionate about. What am I passionate about? And I spent all these months agonizing about it, trying to figure out so many things. I started crocheting all the time. I started doing yoga all the time. I started meditating all the time. I started journaling all the time. I don't even know what other hobbies, but eventually also doing so much art all the time. And through trying to make all of my hobbies a financial stream of income, I realized it really sucks trying to turn your hobby into a stream of income unless you genuinely feel like that's what you're meant to do. And I realized, that wasn't my goal, especially when it came to crocheting. I crocheted 10 things in 1 week, and I was like, this is making me miserable. My hands hurt. The crocheting takes forever. Each of these hats take hours. But I think that it was necessary to teach me the patience that tattoo requires, because tattooing also requires sitting down and using my hands for hours. But obviously, I could spend hours on a hat, let's say 6 hours on a hat for crochet, and I could maybe sell it for somewhere between $30 to $60. I'm not out here trying to charge $100 for a crochet hat. But even if I did, let's max it out and say I did it for $100. If that took me 6 hours, the labor that it took, the brain power, the yarn, etc., that's worth way more than $100. But nobody wants to buy $100 crochet hat. I'm just being frank. And I realized that I didn't want to have that kind of business where, once again, I'm straining myself just to make $1. And I don't mean that the same isn't true for tattoo, but I realized with tattoo, there's so much fluidity and freedom in that I don't necessarily have to make it my full-time job because I'm setting my own hours. There are times where tattoo artists are not booked. What are they doing when they're not booked? other things. And I mean, there are some people who do tattoo full time. They're in the studio 7 days a week, 8 to 12 hours a day, and hats off to them. But I realized when thinking about what I wanted from tattooing, my goal was always to have a private studio, and in having a private studio, I wanted to be able to tattoo, but I also wanted to be able to do other things like paint, pottery, crochet, etc. I realized that like there's so many things in art that I love to do, and hyper fixating on tattooing was making me miserable. And it was because I was following the guidelines of what someone else wanted as well, and trying to make that what I wanted and believe that that was what I needed. And I don't mean that that's the reason why I left. It's just something that I've reflected on since, that, I have to take my own path. I have to decide what I want. I have to set better boundaries and say yes to things that feel like yes, and say no to things that feel like no. And I've said yes to things that felt like maybe, and I've said yes to things that feel like no, but maybe eventually. And I'm realizing I don't want to bend anymore. I've bent so much for life, I've stayed in friendships or relationships or jobs or whatever for hope that it would change. And I realized that's not the life that God seems to have set out for me. The life that God seems to have set out for me is that I'm supposed to take in this information and say yes or no. And my heart will be like, no, I'm not interested. But my brain will be like, well, yes, because what if this gets me to where I need to go? Or what if this changes? Or what if over time? Or what if? And so then I go with, okay, brain, maybe you're right. Maybe things will change, get better, whatever. I just have to be patient, because I was working from a lack mindset. That's another thing, to jump backwards a bit, that I believed that I had to struggle to get to where I needed. And that was kind of what I was taught, especially in school. Like, oh yeah, this class is really hard. You have to study really hard. And it's really annoying. And even if it's a class you don't even want to take, but it'll get you to your degree. And the same with a job. Like, yeah, this job really sucks. And I really don't like my boss or my work or what I'm doing or my coworkers, whatever it is. But I need these benefits, or I need this paycheck, or whatever the case is. And I was like, oh my God, I want to break that cycle. I do not want struggle love. That's what it's called. I do not want to have to struggle or suffer to have what I want. And the only way for me to live that life that I'm speaking out into existence is to say no to things that aren't for me. It's really that simple. I'm working a lot on my confidence, my boundaries, but, saying no is like a really big part of your throat chakra. And I realized I've been in situations, like when I reflect on these situations, where it was hard for me to speak up, or when I spoke up, it was like completely the wrong way, because I had been holding in things for so long. And I was like, yeah, I really got to work on this. I want to come from a very effective, clear, calm place. And, the minute something happened, like say someone started to curse me out, I just want to be able to be like, oh, this isn't for me. And, I feel like I've done it at moments in my life. Like, for example, like I was cheated on in a previous relationship a long time ago. Like, this is high school. And I used to think like, oh, I love him so much. Like, it doesn't matter what he does. I would forgive him. And, as soon as I found out that information, I was like, I'm done. And we had been together since middle school as well. No shade, no tea to him. But, like, we had been together for 5 years. And he was like, you could just throw our relationship away just like that? And I was like, no, it's not even like I wanted to throw the relationship away. I didn't like how your action made me feel. And that made me feel like a knee-jerk reaction was, I'm done. We're breaking up. And I think other people would be sad or think about it or forgive them, etc. I've seen plenty of people forgive their partners for cheating, especially at an age that young. But I was like, no, the person I would be with would never cheat on me. and so it was a flat out. And so when I realized, like, why is it that I have these non-negotiables in other situations but not in other situations? Like, for example, like flaky friends. I've had flaky that throat chakra. I've had flaky friends in the past, and I've been like, okay, like that's just them, and that's fine, and but I would like feel this like anger over time, like, dang, they keep flaking on me, or dang, this is really making me upset, or like, and then I'd have like a conversation with them, and they'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll change, da da da, whatever, and then they don't, and then I'm like, and so to go to that Maya Angelou quote, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. I'm not interested in trying to change people anymore. That's another thing. I'm not interested in waiting for things to change. I'm good. Tell me, this is who I am, this is what I can give you, and that is that. That's that. I'm learning acceptance and surrender. I guess that's a really big one. And I'm accepting that I have to surrender to things I cannot change. And I'm tired of trying to change people. I realize, like, I feel like I've finally broken myself out of that cycle when it comes to other things in my life. Obviously, it's hard with certain people, like family or whatever. Like, you can't do it in all case scenarios, but at least in work, that is one thing I absolutely have control over. As for some of my friends, some of them I have just had to accept. I love you. But if I was to like make a new friend and they were really flaky, I would probably just be like, oh, this isn't the type of friendship that I want. I want someone who's going to show up for me the same way I show up for them, and that's fully. And obviously, not everyone's able to show up exactly the same each time, but if, like, within our first few hangouts, like, I'm not hearing back from you, or you're always canceling on me, or moving the time, etc., that's just a big red flag for me now, because I don't like being put in the position to wait. I don't like being put in the position to feel, like, optional, or whatever. I'm going off on a tangent. The point is that I realized part of the reason why I didn't have boundaries was because I wasn't really sure of what I wanted out of my relationships, out of my workplace. And the more I've been put in situations that I did not want to be in, the quicker I was able to see, this is not what I want. This is not where I want to be. And now I hope and pray moving forward that I will now be able to say, when something appears to me, like I said for this flaky friend case scenario, this person is flaky. I don't want flaky friends. And walk away from that situation. As opposed to being like, well, maybe they'll change, or maybe it was just that one time. The point is that I've made excuses in the past. And the thing is, I'm going to try to explain this the best way I can. Your integrity and your morals are like what you believe in, how you are, how you see the world, etc. There's probably a better definition for it, but stay with me. Every time you bend your boundaries or, your morals, whatever, for someone or something else, you slowly chip away at that integrity. But the thing is, your integrity is what helps build your confidence. So if you're not confident, it is probably because you are not being true to yourself. And you're probably not being true to yourself because you lack boundaries. And you probably lack boundaries because either you did not have an example, or you don't even know what your boundaries are. I think, if anyone wants to take this as an opportunity or an example, write down what your boundaries are. I don't want flaky friends. I don't want people who cheat. I don't want people who lie, steal, yell, etc. The point is that once you get clear on those boundaries and you are like hard set on that, and you're like, this is my integrity, these are my morals, this is what I want for myself, this is what I will and will not tolerate, then going forward, when something like that appears, you can just say no. Nope. Because I felt mad at myself at times for staying places longer than I should have. And I was from an egoic place, I was quick to blame the other person. Like, this person showed me a facade, this person didn't show me who they really were, this person switched up on me, this person changed, this person was two-faced. But when I look back at the relationship, like, that was my initial reaction. when I look back at the relationship, I'm like, no, well, they did do this, and they did say that one time, and there was that time that happened, and I forgave them for that, but... And then I think about, like, maybe things I did, like, well, actually, they never forgave me for that, or actually, they got really upset when I did that, and I was like, wait, like, I'm actually much more forgiving than them. Like, that's just another example. But the point is like, I realized, like, oh, that wasn't about the other person. Like, it's easy to make it about the other person, blame the other person. For example, like, if someone cheats on you and you forgive them again and again and again, and they keep saying, I won't do it again, I won't do it again. And you're like, oh my God, this person keeps cheating on me. Well, and it keeps hurting you. Because it also keeps chipping away at your confidence, because it's chipping away at your integrity, because it's chipping away at the fact that you don't have any boundaries. You have to have the boundary, you will not cheat on me. And when somebody cheats on you, then you say, I'm leaving. That's the boundary. And I know it's hard to uphold that boundary sometimes because you're like, I love this person, I care about this person. Or, you know, I love this job, or I want this job, or I need this job, etc. You know, fill in the blank. But when you actually stand up for yourself, it gets easier over time. It's like a muscle. It's like an exercise. The more often you do it, the easier it gets. So if instead of being the victim of your circumstances and constantly being like, oh, I keep getting hurt, people keep switching up on me, things keep changing, whatever, you can instead say, I did not set strong enough boundaries. And that's basically where I'm at in my journey. I'm realizing that if I set better boundaries, those things wouldn't have happened to begin with. So I can't blame those people or those situations or God, because I've been like, why do I keep attracting these kind of people? Why do I keep attracting these kinds of situations? When it is because I lack boundaries. It's not that I didn't see the red flags, because clearly now that the situation is over, I'm able to reflect on the situation and say, I didn't like that, I didn't like that, I didn't like that, I didn't like that. But had I in that moment said, I don't like this, I could have left then. And I think that, you know, sometimes, I heard a quote, was it on a TV show or something? I don't remember. But the point was that they were like, it might have been a TikTok. Honestly, I don't remember. But they said that if you keep abandoning yourself for others for the sake of them, for the sake of not abandoning them, you keep abandoning yourself for the sake of not abandoning other people. But the truth is that a lot of those people would abandon you. And if you were to do the same thing, would also abandon you. So, do with that information what you will. In the cheating example, if you cheated on them, would they stay? If you yelled and cursed at them, would they tolerate it? If you were flaky and didn't show up for things and blah, 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 would they still be your friend? Like, you have to ask yourself that, but that's not the only thing you should ask yourself. The main thing isn't actually about other people and what they would do to you. The main thing is about, is this serving me? Do I want this? Do I like this? And I only want to walk into situations that are serving me, that are good for me, that make me feel good, that make me feel happy. And I know for some people that's going to be like, well, not every situation is going to make you happy, or this, that, and that. Let me be delusional then. I have decided I'd rather be delusional. I'd rather be delusional. Because living in this world where I'm thinking like, basically from a place of lack, like, no, sometimes you do have to suffer. Sometimes people are bad, or sometimes you can't predict what someone's going to be. No, I would like to believe that I have discernment. And that discernment might not be the same discernment everybody else has, but I am able to discern what's best for me. Absolutely, I'm able to discern what's best for me. And if I wasn't able to, then I wouldn't be able to reflect on those situations and be like, this is where I went wrong. If I wasn't able to have good discernment, then I wouldn't have been able to discern that actually it wasn't about those other people, it was about my lack of boundaries. You have to step into the empowering role in your own life and be like, no, these things are happening because I let them, because of things I did. And that's not to set yourself up for the guilty pity party. Why did I do this? Why do I keep doing this? What's wrong with me? No, like, take that. You can feel that pain for a little bit, but don't wallow. Don't stay there. because that's been my problem, is that I've wanted to stay there. I wanted to feel sorry for myself. I wanted to blame everyone else and every other thing that's happened in my life and be like, oh, it's all their fault. But what kind of life is that? That's a sad life, to be like, everything just happens to me. I'd like to believe I am in control of my world and I am what makes things happen. As they say, universe, you are the center of your universe. And I know they say, oh, the world doesn't revolve around me or whatever. But in your world, it actually does, because everybody is living from their own life, their own perspective, their own set of backgrounds and experiences, etc. So if you are at the center of your world, would it not be true that your reality is a reflection of you, your decisions, your life, your experiences? So if I keep attracting similar people or similar situations, I can't be like, oh, that's life, that's everything else. I have to be like, nah, that's me. That's me. I keep choosing the wrong things. And so I think I've been at places where I've been like hyper vigilant, where I've been like, oh my God, I have to keep my eye out for everything. Like I have to watch, like, oh, everything is a slight, everything everyone says, like, oh, I gotta watch that. Like, I'm not saying do that either, because I've been in that place too, where it's overreactive. There's like underreacting, where you're not doing anything, you're just letting stuff happen, and then there's overreactive, where every single thing feels like a slight. And I made a TikTok once where I said, like, when you form this protective bubble around yourself, sometimes you can't tell the difference between a butterfly or a tank touching that protective bubble, and you just have this immediate reaction. So I'm saying, like, you also have to learn how to weigh and process things. But you also have to trust your heart. It's a very interesting balance, and I hope that this is making sense, that you have to trust your heart, you have to listen to your heart. I believe that your heart is at the center of you, the heart is at your intuition, and you can feel it in certain moments when your pulse starts to quicken, when your heart starts to race, and not for positive things. I don't want to let it get that far, because like low key in those moments, like I feel like I've been pushed too far by the time that my heart is racing and I feel overwhelmed. But like you can also feel it in your gut. Like there have been times where people have said something to me that hurt my feelings, and I could feel it in my stomach, almost like, oh, that wasn't a good thing to say. That was really messed up. Oh, I did not like that. Or like even my heart racing, like when I start to try to speak up for myself, like, and I'm like, oh, this is actually really hard. Why do I feel like I can't say what I need to say? Because that shouldn't be a thing. And I don't mean like you can't just be nervous. I have anxiety. I'm to be transparent, but I feel like I'm trying to listen to my body more. They say your emotions are stored in your body. So the fact that I feel things in my gut, I feel things in my heart. I can't say I feel things in my brain. I think things with my brain. And your brain at the end of the day is like a very fancy computer that is meant for processing information, interpreting it, and making decisions. But ultimately, your brain wants to help you, in that it wants you to not suffer. And when I realized that a big chunk of my energy was being geared towards trying to avoid pain, trying to avoid problems, trying to keep myself safe, trying to do what I thought would keep me best safe, I realized that I actually wasn't. My brain is like, how do we avoid this? Your brain is like a survival tool. But if you actually listen to your body, your heart, and drop down into that intuition, drop down into that intuition instead of into your mind, I think that you can actually find a lot more clarity. You can find a lot more of what you need, what you want. And that's where I'm at. I'm working on developing my intuition, but I also actually believe that all of our intuition is quite strong. I think we just constantly go against it. And when you're constantly going against your intuition, you feel like you can't hear that voice. You feel like you don't know what it's saying. But there are times when you can obviously hear it very loudly. Say you're trying to decide what you want to have for dinner. yeah, you could use your brain for that. Like, oh, I should probably have a salad because I just had fried chicken yesterday. I should have something less greasy to keep myself healthy or whatever. But you could also drop down into your body, not just your mind, and say, oh, I don't, my stomach doesn't really feel good. I feel really heavy after I had all of that pasta yesterday. I should probably eat something lighter. I think that's tuning in your body and your mind together, as opposed to, your brain, which might be coming from a place of like shame or guilt or whatever. I don't know if any of this is making sense. I'm just on a rambly rant right now. But the point is, all of this, that I've started over on my path, and I've started over multiple times before, and I'll probably have to start over again and again and again and again and again. But the only thing that's constant in life is change. I'm sure you've heard that quote somewhere. I couldn't tell you who the original author was, but whoever they were really on to something, because I I've wanted stability so much that I believe stability was like having my life stay exactly the same and afloat. But honestly, that'd be kind of boring if you think about it. But really, the stability that I want is something only I can give myself. Am I right? It's not something that's going to come from outside of me. And I'm like, oh, it's all sinking in now. It's all sinking in. I can't have anything outside of me that's not already within me. So if my life is chaotic, it's because I'm chaotic inside. If I can't trust people, it's because I can't trust myself. To trust the right people. But I can't, because I can't trust myself. And so once I started to like switch that dial back to me instead of to the world, oh, it's the world, oh, it's the universe, oh, it's everybody else, to, oh, actually, I am giving my power away. I am the person that's in control. I control my life. I control my decisions. I control who's there. I control what I do. In some ways, I know it can be kind of scary, like, oh my God, everything's up to me. But at the same time, it is that you are much more powerful than you think. Believe in your power. Believe in your strength. Know that what you want and what you desire is within your reach, within your grasp, within your control. And I know sometimes, you get rejected or redirected or whatever, and that might be the universe trying to like help shape your path. But what I realized from now having multiple careers, I've been a scientist, I've been a teacher, I've been a tattoo artist. The universe has supported me in any decision that I've made as far as like going down a specific career path. And once I realized that, I was like, wait, so my life actually isn't dependent on what I do for work. I thought the universe was like trying to guide me to a specific path. Like, oh, things keep not working out, so that must mean I'm not meant for that path. No, that's not what it is. I might not be meant to do it there or at that time. Timing is a big role in the grand scheme of everything. But really, I genuinely believe that it takes you have to give that power back to yourself, and take that power and say, this is what I deserve, this is what I want. And you just tell the universe that. At that point, that's where you're supposed to surrender the control. The minute that you try to shape it into, I want it exactly this way, that's where things seem to go askew. And I feel like that's what happened for my apprenticeship. I was very specific in my manifestation for what I was looking for in my apprenticeship and my mentor, and I ended up not wanting it anymore, not enjoying it. And I realized, oh, like maybe I should have been less specific. Maybe I should have said, I want the apprenticeship that is best for me, as opposed to, I want this. And so, I said I wanted to do something I was passionate about. Oh, that left me up to a plethora of things. But I do feel more passionate about what I'm doing now. But because I didn't specify, I said, I didn't say I want to be passionate about being a writer and then try to force myself to be a writer. I do enjoy writing poetry. I do enjoy writing. I've written random short stories, etc. And at first when I was like submitting them for publication and they weren't being accepted, although I do have a scientific publication. But, you know, my fictional or poetry, I was like, oh my God, God doesn't want me to be a poet. And I was like, no, that's not true. Like, I was able to check myself and be like, no, that's not true. Like, I don't have to give up writing just because I didn't get published. Especially because I only tried to get published once. So that's the other thing. Like, you hear all those stories of all those other authors that are like, I took my book to 20 different publishers before somebody said yes. Like, sometimes it's just that you're meant to do that somewhere else or at a different time. Like, people have, like, written multiple books, tried to get all of them published, and then maybe the last book gets published, and then after they get that last book published, they're able to go back and publish the other ones because now they have been established. That doesn't mean they should have quit writing because the first book that they wrote didn't get published. It just meant it wasn't the time. And so I'm accepting that now I know that just because something isn't going the way that I want, it doesn't mean that I'm not meant to be there. And I think that that's something that I thought before when it came to jobs. I thought like, oh, this isn't working out, I'm not meant to be there. And then I'm like, okay, then what job am I supposed to have? No. And I still think that I walked away from those other career avenues because that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I think, you know, some people have like that determination for with the writer example, like, oh, well, I was rejected. Let me write another story. Let me write another story. Let me write another story. I didn't feel that. I've always written poetry from a place of, I feel this way. These words have come to my head. I've written them down. Maybe they'll be published one day. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But I'm not stressed about it. Whereas tattooing, I like wake up and think about tattooing. I'm like, oh, I need to draw this. Like every time I go someplace, I'm taking pictures. I'm like, ooh, this could be a flash. Like, and I realized like, oh, I wanted something I was passionate about. I found it accidentally. I was just like, I mean, I like drawing. I like tattoos. I'll give it a try. And like I said, because the universe doesn't really say no to you, it did open up, but I felt like the no when my apprenticeship didn't work out. Like, oh my God, so this wasn't it. And but when I stepped back and thought about my life and the universe and everything, I was like, no, I don't think they're telling me that I can't be a tattoo artist. I think they're telling me that this isn't the way that it's going to happen. And the quicker I am rolling with the punches, the quicker I can get to what I want. And I don't mean like that's my reasoning. I'm not trying to go for speed. I just mean that like the longer I spent time being sad and wallowing or whatever, the longer I would have been putting off continuing on something that actually makes me happy and passionate. So, yeah, to summarize everything I've said, have integrity and boundaries. Don't give up just because you hear no. It might just be a later or not in this way. And honestly, I don't even remember everything else I said, so it's not even worth me trying to summarize. I'm just being honest. I came on here, no thoughts, head empty, and I just wanted to like ramble as if I was talking to a friend, because ultimately that is what I want out of my community. And that's what I wanted when I decided to, you know, take social media more seriously. I was actually doing social media well before I was trying to be a tattoo artist. And so it felt really sad when I like was taking a step back, because I was like, wait, I was doing social media before tattooing, so that way y'all could see my journey into figuring out what I wanted. That was like my goal. I was like, I want people to be able to see that they can do anything they want, be anything they want. But I also want to be transparent that it's not always easy and it's not always fast and quick. And I think that being able to show that journey, like that's something that I've looked for. You know, I've had YouTubers that I followed for years, and it's been great to see their growth. But I feel like I didn't always see their struggle. And I don't mean like, I understand that not everybody's going to put their worst moments out on the internet. And I don't mean like none of them ever didn't show their struggle. Some of them did. But I think knowing that like, oh, life isn't always going to go perfect, and it's not just boom, wake up overnight and you have 1 million subscribers or anything like that. Like, it takes time to build the things that you want. And for some people it does happen overnight, and kudos to them. But this is the path that I'm on. So I'm showing my journey. I'm showing what my life looks like. And maybe one day I'll be able to look back and laugh at all this stuff and be like, wow, either I really didn't know what I was talking about, or dang, I was really onto something. So I hope that this is helpful for somebody else, inspiring for somebody else, for them to be like, oh, it's okay if my life has twists and turns. It's okay if I don't know what I want. It's okay if what I want keeps changing. It's okay. That's really the main thing that I want to send out to the people who watch this video, that you're going to be okay, life is going to be okay, and that the pain that you feel is temporary, but it's also a choice. And as annoying as that is, like I said at the beginning of this video when I said I didn't want to feel optimistic, this is not for people who are in the mood of being pessimistic or negative. Have that pity party, feel sorry for yourself, but eventually pick yourself up, because you get to decide how your life looks. You get to decide whether you're going to be happy. Why would you decide to be sad? And I realized I decided to be sad because it was easier to be sad. It takes work to be happy. It takes work because I have to force myself to go on a walk, force myself to shower and brush my teeth, force myself to journal, force myself to meditate. But eventually, it becomes a habit. And I realized in moments where I've been stressed in my life, I always dropped the things that are most beneficial for me. I dropped filming. I dropped meditating. I dropped journaling. I dropped exercising. I dropped yoga, whatever, all of those things. And I was like, wait, but those are the things that actually fill up my cup. Those are the things that make me happy. Those are the things that make me feel good. Why am I denying myself those things? Oh, because I want to be sad. And I don't mean like I want to be sad. Nobody wants to be sad. But I did not want to pull myself out of that sadness. I did not want to do the work. And so even today, I didn't want to film, but I was like, I kind of feel like I have something to say. I didn't want to put on makeup, but I was like, what if I just sat down? And so I forced myself. I said, I'm just going to walk into the room and put clothes on. I'm just going to sit down at my vanity and do my makeup. I'm just going to set up the camera and I'm just going to start talking. And as not simple as it felt at the time, because I was like, I don't want to do this, but I'm making myself do it because I know it needs to be done, I realized, oh my God, there's so much power in forcing myself to do things I don't want to do. What if you don't want to go on a walk? Okay, go on a walk grumpy. Nobody said you had to go on a walk. Nobody said you had to be happy to go on a walk. Go out there, be grumpy, put your headphones in, blast your sad music, and be like, oh, I'm so sad. And guess what? I promise you on that walk, you're going to see something beautiful and something amazing is going to happen, and you're going to remember why life is fantastic. For me, I forced myself to go on a run, and I was like, oh, I don't really feel like running, so I'm just going to walk. And I was like, okay, that's a good compromise with myself. And guess what? I started going on the walk, and I was like seeing people run past me, and I was like, dang. And not because it's about the other people, but because I was like, I'm already out here. I'm already in my athletic clothes. I'm already in my running shoes. I might as well just run. And guess what? I ran, and it was fine. And guess what? Running is also faster than me walking. If I wanted to walk those 3 miles, it would have taken me longer. Running those 3 miles was a lot quicker, and I got home faster and got back in my bed. And you know what I felt? I still felt more productive. I was like, wow, I did something for myself. That makes me feel better. Because, you get that runner's high. I don't know if everybody does, but I personally do. And I was like, dang, I do feel better. Ugh. And I meditated the other day, and I felt better after. I was like, dang, I do feel better. And I was like, wow, I know what makes me feel good. You probably know what makes you feel good. Whether it's a bath, a home-cooked meal, giving yourself a makeover, changing your hair, something I do pretty often. I'm like, oh, like, I should probably just do them, even if I don't feel like it. If you wait until you feel like doing things, I don't know if it'll ever happen. Maybe y'all have more motivation than me, but personally, I don't often have like this feeling of doing something. I just kind of force myself to do it, and then I'm happy it's done. It's like cleaning. I don't always feel like cleaning. I mean, I'm not saying I've never woke up and been like, oh, I feel like cleaning today. Like, I have. But for the most part, I just get sick of being like, oh, my mirror is so dirty. I need to clean this off. Okay, it will take me 2 seconds to just wipe this off. I just do it. But this is also a tangent. I'm realizing the point is that there's no point. Because I keep saying the point is. Life is what you make it. You get to choose the life that you want to live. You get to choose how you want to live it. And if you want to choose to be sad, because sometimes it does feel good to be sad and be mad at the world and blame everyone else, then go ahead and do that. But eventually you're going to have to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and go back out there and make something out of life again. Because it feels much better, in my opinion, to move through the world optimistically and happily than it does to sit there miserable and angry. It's really a matter of how long do you want to sit in those feelings before you move forward. And I think, being a sensitive person, I've thought, oh, I need to allow myself to feel like this. I need to feel like that's my, I really need to feel this sadness to the depth of its core. But then I also started to ask myself, why? Why do I want to wallow? Why do I want to feel sad? If I know that I'm going to get over this, why not get over it now? And then I felt like, oh no, I didn't give myself enough time to process. I didn't give myself enough time to be sad. I think sometimes I have a problem of bypassing my feelings as well, like blowing it off and being like, oh, that wasn't a big deal. And then I find myself crying weeks later. And then I'm like, oh, why am I so sad? And it's like because I'm finally processing everything that was happening. There's a balance. There really is a balance. I think that there's so much duality in the universe, and that is one of the dualities of life, of feeling your feelings but not feeling them for too long. And you're allowed to be sad, but you can't stay sad because you should choose to be happy because it feels better to be happy. But also you shouldn't be happy all the time because that's not how things work. You're going to feel pain, you're going to feel stress, you're going to feel unhappy. But again, it's temporary, just like the happiness is. And I think the point of all of that is that because everything is so fleeting, you're actually supposed to value it while it's happening, because you already know tomorrow or whatever, it'll be gone. So yeah, I don't know if anything I said makes sense, but I really hope that this reaches somebody and somebody hears it and is like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I needed to hear, because that's often what happens to me. So algorithm, do your magic. And let this video find the people that it was meant to find and help support them on their journey. I don't know that this is necessarily tattoo content, but I want to be transparent. Like, my channel was never fully about tattooing, so I'm sorry to anyone who subscribed to me just for tattoo content. Tattooing is a part of my life and it is a part of my content, but it's not the only part of my life and it's not the only content that I want to make. So I want to be honest from the get-go. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay happy, stay blessed. I don't know. I don't really have an intro or outro yet of things that I say to the people in my community. Maybe that's something we could talk about together. Chat, drop down below. But yeah, most of all, I just wish that your blessings come to you in the time that they're meant to, and that you keep walking towards your goals. And yeah, I don't know. I could keep speaking positive affirmations into you. Maybe that's how I want to end things. You are strong. You are powerful. You are safe. You are in control of your reality. Those are the main things that came to my mind first. You are beautiful. You are talented. You are important. You matter. Let's see what else. Melody, you got anything? You are loved. That's another thing that just came to my mind. I know sometimes this world can feel cold and heartless, but genuinely, even if there aren't people in your life who you feel love you, they love you in their own limited way, and I love you in my own capacity for my general love of the world. I want to see the world become a better place, and I think that happens one step at a time. And I'm hopeful that by using my authentic voice that I'll be able to touch someone and help someone else. So I love you. I forgot I wanted to pull a card. I've got my Crystal Mandala Oracle deck. I'm going to get a card for me and then a card for the collective. I got 2 cards. Spiritual connection and individuality. That crown chakra, that throat chakra, come on, it's giving. And then on the bottom of the deck, I have original self. So I'll be reading these after the video because I'm not gonna lie, the booklet is kind of long. But let me get one for the collective. Oh. Divine Alchemy. Ascended Master Mary Magdalene and Aqua Aura Quartz. The card number is number 24. Sometimes I turn like right to the page and I'm like, oh. We bring you the blessing of divine alchemy. Divine alchemy is the art of transmutation, the application of spiritual consciousness to physical form, so profound that an entirely new form evolves. It is irreversible change. It is the coal transformed into the diamond, the lead of sleeping matter awakened into a radiant gold of consciousness. Successful alchemical transformation requires patience, courage, and a belief in the power of spirit above all else. The radical and permanent transformation effected by divine alchemy may seem miraculous to the outsider viewing the changed form, yet the alchemist knows that when spiritual consciousness meets physical matter, the world will never be the same again. I read The Alchemist all the time. Honestly, one of my favorite books. So if that's a download for you, go ahead and read that because I think that story applies to everyone. But that's all that I have for today. So bye. I would just like to say for this original self card, it's basically everything that I was talking about in this video. So not sure if y'all want to pause and read that, but this part especially, the blessing of the original self empowers you to free yourself from the expectations, judgments, control, and manipulation of others. Is that not just what I was talking about? Choose yourself! I just want to add, as I kept reading, it says, now you are ready to break free of constraints, expectations, and projections, and dare yourself to be unapologetically, truthfully, and lovingly and proudly you. As you take that step, you are honoring yourself and you are honoring the source, the great creative intelligence that designed you to be as you are in the truth. Shaking off projections from others takes sacred, angry, compassion, and courage, and a will to love ourselves. One way to be empowered to do this is to remind yourself that the projections are not about you. They are about the wounded fantasies of the people making the projection. These wounded fantasies prevent real connection and real love from taking place. They are an invisible wall of expectation that keeps love at bay. People will often give opinions very decidedly about others they have never personally met and know nothing about. Then there are projections from those we are in a personal relationship with, which can become so powerful that over time we begin to believe in what others want us to be rather than what we know ourselves to be deep within. If you have people in your life whom you love, but who try to change you, manipulate you, or have become angry when you don't meet their expectations of who they believe you to be, you must take care of yourself. You have been created by divine design for perfect purpose. For you to be able to live your life purpose, you have to be who you are. If you are an open sort of personality, as many on the spiritual path are striving to be, you must be sure you are strong enough within so the openness you have to others doesn't result in you becoming confused about who you are and what you are here for. See, what did I say? I said I take in all these thoughts and opinions trying to be this open-minded individual. And then I don't know what I really want or what I really think. So I just wanted to add that so y'all could hear that too. But yeah, that was for the original self card. Also got the individuality card. And also got the spiritual connection card. And what's funny about this individuality card is that I went into a shop recently and she was like, I'm wearing my favorite crystal. And I was like, oh, what crystal is it? And she was like, it's labradorite. Labradorite? You know the one? And that's what this card has. So I'm like, maybe I need to give me some of that. But yeah, I think this was just more confirmation that I was meant to channel that messy message to send to y'all. And I have this picture swimming around in my camera roll about like taking self-accountability versus being the victim. So I'm going to try to insert that here. Take that time to read it, screenshot it, save it, whatever, because I definitely needed to see it, and I forgot about it when I was doing this video. But then I was going through my camera roll as I was waiting for my camera to charge to finish the video, and I was deleting stuff, and then I came across it, and I had saved that months ago, and I was like, ha, that applies to my current situation. So, yeah, just thought I'd share that. But bye for real this time. I just want to say I can't make this up. Your second task will be to use your courage within your heart to set priorities that match your inner values and act on them. Come on, this is what I'm talking about. So once again, these cards just confirmed everything I was saying, so hopefully it did make sense. As if I needed further confirmation. In fact, the more unusual your path appears to be, the more it seems to suit you and perhaps no one else. I know I'm not crazy. I know I'm not crazy. Like, y'all watch me shuffle them cards. Y'all watch me pull them cards. I can't make them cards fall out of the deck. And yet it confirmed every single thing I said in this video. Yeah, this is going to reach those who it's meant to reach. Using my intuition, using my magical powers, the universe using theirs, this will reach who it's meant to reach. I don't care if this video got 5 views. Those 5 views are for the people it was meant to reach. So, amen.